On today's Monday edition, hey, it's March. Wow, let's march on. What we've got for you today on the program. Vitamin D deficiency is a real risk for the average person living in Canada, especially at this time of the year. Nutritionist Julia Caranchis shares how we can get more of it even if we don't go outside enough to absorb the sun. And is your home smart enough yet? Of course it is. It hasn't thrown me out yet. Michael Babcock has updates on recent Amazon Alexa capabilities and the latest comparisons of products out there from his smart home setup. Soon our homes will be able to make lunch for us, I hope. Right? Someone give me a yep. Here we go.
This is Kelly and Company.
Welcome to the program. I welcome in Nazreen Abdel-Majid. Happy Monday. Welcome.
Happy Monday.
Lots of good conversations ahead today.
You feel pretty cheerful today.
Pretty cheerful. It's Monday. No, earlier. I don't have one handy now. And I always worry because I forget what cup I have sometimes, and I worry, I wonder if something's written on it. I think a long time ago I bought myself something like maybe a Starbucks or Tim Hortons or something cup, and I like it because it's got the lid, but it's the only thing I get so concerned about. It's a nice china mug, but then I forget what's written on it, and then I worry that I'm waving it all over the place when we start the show if I go to take a sip.
Do you have offensive mugs or something?
Well, no, it's nothing bad on it. I just get so used to the days, especially doing TV stuff. You don't want something written on your shirt. Like, don't have anything, don't advertise anything. So my head instantly goes to that with everything. And I still, I don't want to be giving free advertising to Tim Hortons or whomever. I'll talk about them, but I'm not going to wave their cup around here. Yay, look at that. And then, of course, I don't want to be caught on screen taking a sip and avoiding the microphone, clunking against it, or dripping on my shirt. So I end up not having it. But the worst nightmare of all.
Done that.
Worst nightmare of all is the coffee throat, as I call it, where you're talking away like this, all of a sudden it's like a finger presses on your neck and you start talking and you're trying to fight your way through it because you get this dry clutch in your throat that actually hurts. It feels like a pinch and it actually hurts, and I know that's coffee throat. Yeah. Bad news for sure.
And
folks,
we're looking. The show must go on.
Must go on when you're sitting here doing live to tape, whatever you might be doing, because you just think, come on, this will go away, won't it? And it's not, because your voice is changing. We're looking for members of the disability community to join our AMI research panel. Our research panel guides us with every decision that we make here at AMI, including programming, media consumption, and accessibility. Participants are compensated for all long forms and studies. For more information, I guess I really should say they're compensated for all long form studies. For more information on how to join, go to ami.ca/panel. We'd love to have you on board. We'd love to have your feedback. So once again, that's AMI. It's amazing how I can say it right one time and then just sort of blow it up. AMI.ca/panel. I'm so tempted to say CA sometimes, right? CA, CA, CA.
Yeah. Okay, so the emotional ups and downs that come with prepping, going through, and recovering from eye surgery can feel endless. And no matter how ready or hopeful you may feel going into it, medical intervention comes with all kinds of challenges that we just aren't ready for. Psychotherapist Fern Lillum is here to share how she's been feeling lately, going through her own journey with a corneal transplant procedure in the UK. Fern, bring us up to speed. What's been going on?
Oh, so much, Nazreen. I mean, it's hard to know where to start. And for anyone who can't see me, I am adorned with a patch. Not a patch on me, but there is a patch on me today, an eye patch, that is, because Yes, you're right. I had a cornea transplant surgery in January. You may remember that last time I was on the show, I mentioned that as well. And then since I've been on the show, I went for a checkup appointment thinking that, it would just be an in and out, everything's good, looking fine, goodbye. And had an eye test, everything seemed fine. I seemed to be able to actually see a little bit more through the operated eye, which was exciting. Then I went in to see the consultant, the doctors, to do their examination. And this is where all hell kind of broke loose. And I wasn't ready for what was about to happen. So I had no kind of discomfort, no pain, no redness, no sign that anything was going wrong. And in this appointment with this doctor, I was all of a sudden being confronted with the news that there was something not looking so good about my transplant. In fact, it seemed to be breaking down, which is not what you want to hear when you've just had a cornea transplant. And as you can imagine, I'm immediately panicking. And for anyone who's lucky enough to have consistent care with a consultant that they see all the time, and maybe they have their surgeries with that person, you'll know how hard it is to be in a room with anybody else, only because not because there's anything wrong with those doctors and they're just as qualified, just as specialist, but it's not your person, if you know what I mean. You put your trust and your faith in one particular doctor or surgeon to do what they're going to do. And so then it's very hard to see somebody else because, of course, just like with anything, everyone has different opinions, right? We all have different opinions on this show all the time. And it turns out it's the same with doctors. They all they all think slightly different things.
And you're going to get also a different output of disseminating that information to you, a different sensitivity level because of the investment your regular care people team have made in you.
Yes, exactly.
And you're going to have to explain your whole situation, your whole history all over again to this person. So it's frustrating.
Yes. And I think you sort of wonder, how much do they know about, have they read your notes? Do they know your eyes? And that is a really good point. Just the fact that the team that you've been with just know your eyes inside out, and they know you and your condition. And as with so many of us with eye conditions, they're not straightforward things, right? And so very often what somebody may look at and think is a problem might just be a facet of your condition that's always been there. That the person that
and
knows
that's when you said that, Fern, especially that you felt you could see better. So could we get a little more context on, obviously, for those who don't really understand the procedure, what happens? Maybe you can just touch just on that for understanding and quantifying. But you would question, what are you talking about? I can see better. What kind of crack are you? Like you would, I'm sure, seriously doubt the credentials of this person saying this, when in your mind, listen, I'm not imagining this, I feel I can see. Oh no. And again, does that quantify for the person's success? I mean, I obviously understand we're talking about, or I believe, deterioration going forward, because this is deemed a failure. So if you could just kind of give us a little more understanding of where we are here.
So in terms of a cornea transplant, for people who don't know, your cornea is essentially the very surface of your eye. So the clear bit, as it were, the clear window that's over the very top of your eye, the top level of your eye. And so essentially my cornea, because of my condition aniridia, and it comes along with a lot of associated conditions, one of which is problems with your cornea. And as you can imagine, if your cornea, or the window to your eye, as it were, was kind of either crinkled or clouded in any kind of way, think of it like a steamy window with a shower, right? You're not going to be able to see through it. So one of the biggest things that helps us to see, very simply, is light coming into our eye. And if light can't get into our eye, there's something blocking that. That can be one of the biggest reasons that our vision is impacted. And so for me, my eye, I've had scarring all over my cornea for a long time. And so obviously that is blocking the light and so forth, blocking the vision. Now, I have had a couple of cornea transplants in the past which have failed. And the latest one that I had, the one before I had my one in January, was scarred over. And so when I had my new one put in January, that scarring cleared. And as my eye started to heal, and as you can imagine, it's only January, we're only just about in March now, so there'd only been a few weeks in between, I had started to be able to get some of that light into my eye more than I'd had when I had the scar on it. And that is what was making me be able to see things more clearly. So it was really exciting for me. And as you say, Kelly, it was very difficult to kind of absorb and process this news that something was wrong, because I felt better than ever almost.
Success.
Like it felt like a complete success. And I did bring that up with the doctors, and then as you may have been in this situation before, very often what happens is they go and get a colleague, and several doctors come in and they're all sort of speculating and looking at you, and various opinions are being thrown around. And I did say, well, it's the hardest thing for me to take in is not just the fact that it seems like something's wrong in this situation, but the shock of it, just because I'm not expecting this at all. This is not how I'm feeling. And I said, I just had an eye test and I feel like I can see better than I did before. And what they said to me was that makes sense, because the light is still coming into my eye, but the cornea is breaking down. So we think essentially what happened is that the cornea got inflamed. So they weren't sure whether it was infection or inflammation, which is two of the biggest things that can basically happen after surgery where things fail. Yeah. And it seems like mine became inflamed and the cornea kind of basically melted, for want of a better word, away.
Wow.
And so there were loose stitches because there was essentially nothing for those stitches to hold it on.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, as you can imagine, with my consultant, he was actually abroad at the time, and this took a long time. We don't have time on the show for me to tell the whole story because it would go on for many hours. But essentially, I finally found this out when my consultant got back, and I was able to book in an appointment with him, and he sort of worked out what happened. But I think the hardest thing for me was just processing it all and being with those feelings, and also for those around me to know how to kind of support me in that, because I just realized that such a big part of this is knowing how to be yourself with other people, but also those people around you knowing how to be with you and what to say to you. And very often those conversations are just completely avoided because it's uncomfortable. People just don't know how to make it better, and they fear making it worse.
And we have, as human beings, to make things better. You're sitting there getting these people, oh, yeah, you can see more, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I thought good things were happening. Oh, yeah. No, well, no. And it's just got to be the most empty feeling when you even have the tease, because you're saying, look, I can see more. This is wonderful. Oh, not really.
Yeah.
That's like, I can't even imagine.
That's how I would describe it, because you're feeling so hopeful, you feel better than ever, and then you get told this information. It is.
It's like having a ball in your hand and someone saying, no, you don't. You have a square. No, I have a ball right here. You can, no, it's a square. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
It's hard to process. But I was just going to ask, are there any next steps for this?
So essentially what has happened since then is that I had emergency surgery the week after. So basically I've had now 2 surgeries in about the space of about a month. And luckily I was very, very fortunate to be able to have it under my consultant, who has essentially just removed the failed transplant and put a new one on top, which he said was good to do as quickly as possible, because what it means is you don't actually have to dig any deeper into the cornea. So essentially every time you have another cornea transplant, it's not an endless thing, because there's only so much cornea that they can take. So I only had a partial transplant. So because nothing, it hadn't scarred over, there was nothing that, needed to be taken away, essentially, apart from just the remnants of what was left. It was able just to be lifted off and a new one put on. And so now it's, we're in a situation where hopefully things will go well. But as you can imagine, I'm very worried about my recovery process, because who's to say, will this happen again? Of course, it's a very natural.
Well, especially with your experiences, right? You've had enough that were you experiencing this wouldn't even know that, hey man, it's not quite right. If things had been, quote, successful, unquote, any idea, Fern, what it would return to you in vision? Best case scenario?
Again, it's complicated because I don't actually have a natural lens in that eye at the moment because I had a cataract operation. So I need to have a new lens put back in, which is another step down the road. But it should restore, I think I should be able to see from a slightly further distance away the eye, because at the moment I have to stand right bang up against the eye chart essentially. And if I had this sight restored, maybe I'd be able to stand, let's say 3 or 4 paces back, which sounds not that significant, but of course, as you as you will understand, it's huge to somebody who hasn't experienced that for a long time. Any kind of small shift or small change can be massive to somebody.
I went to an eye doctor a few months ago, last summer I think it was, and my eyes checked out incredibly healthy, and he was really pleased. He said, "Man, you've got nice eye." Unfortunately, he said, because I can't tell you anything I can do to help restore some of the vision you've lost due to your eye condition and what the regular pathway it's going to take in deteriorating. We thought maybe cataracts or something like that, and he said, "Your eyes are very clean. They're great in there. They're very healthy. Sorry." And it's the craziest thing to say sorry, even though of course you're positive, you're happy that there's no ailments from getting older or anything else that may mean the beginning of something worse or other health issues. But Nisreen, it was just kind of like, yeah, okay, great, I'm healthy, but geez, I kind of wish you could peel off some cataracts so I could at least see that little bit more that Fern's referring to.
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, I kept doing surgeries to remove cataracts, and then I did 2 lens implants. And I feel like people who haven't gone through these types of surgeries don't know the process of it all, because it's a whole process before the surgery, it's a whole process after the surgery, it's the back and forth. Again, if you don't have that that doctor, that your go-to doctor for these types of surgeries and your appointments, it's really frustrating because you have to keep reviewing your history, repeating your history, and most of the time these doctors don't actually look at their notes, so you really have to go through in detail and put some trust in these doctors that you're not used to. So it's a very difficult process.
And it is that kind of bittersweet feeling of there is hope, but it's just very scary because you don't know, you're in this place of uncertainty. And I think all you can do is try as hard as it is, and it is very, very hard, to embrace that uncertainty and just say, I'm not going to try and second guess this. All I can do is take this one day at a time, and I'm not going to torture myself with what could I have done differently, or what can I try and do, or all you can do is your best and what your doctors have told you to do, and beyond that you just have to surrender to the laws of fate.
Because you have no control over the donated cornea. Like you don't know the circumstance, who's putting it in, your body's reaction to it.
Yeah, exactly. But what I do know is that there have been lots of studies, I've looked into this as a psychotherapist, that patients who have support around them and who have people in their lives that are there for them so that they don't feel isolated and they don't feel alone, actually seem to recover in a quicker way, and also have less complications both emotionally and physically. So it is really important to have that network. And even just talking about it, just talking about it with you guys today, it really makes a big difference just to be able to get it off your chest and to have people that understand and go, yeah, I've been there and I get it, and to validate some of those feelings. That means a lot, and you can get a lot out of that. So I think that's really something to be valued.
So
I love that. I absolutely love that.
So for both of you, going through this experience, I have not. I've known people, of course, as a kid. We used to, what do you mean so-and-so has had 7 eye surgeries? Wow. Can you imagine that, going in and out? They practically live in a hospital. We didn't really have the concept. It was just a huge number to us. So I've never, ever had any eye surgeries whatsoever. The most I've done is genetic testing. So when you're going through what you were describing, the support systems that we have, I'm kind of curious, what would you say to the people out there who may be in that position sooner than later, recently have been in it? What would you like them to do, because there's nothing we can say when someone's mourning a loss of something in this circumstance, the disappointment, it's I know we're not necessarily, not that we have the magic thing to say when someone loses a friend, a sibling, when they pass away. It's a different kind of mourning that one's doing. You hope you can embrace for yourself and say down the road, maybe something else, maybe the next one, maybe but what, Nazreen, would you like the people in your world, what did you find the most comforting and helpful? Like Fern was talking about just this conversation, but is there something you would urge people to say or do when they have people in that situation?
I think just finding people to relate to and who has gone through the process, and to have that support system, as Fern put it. It's really hard to trust these doctors and give you the roundabout answers. They often do give the roundabout answers, but to find someone who has gone through this experience and to hear their story, their journey, and how they process it, how they recovered, was really helpful to me. I found patients after my second lens implant surgery who has gone through this experience, and it was another support system that I really needed, that I felt like I wasn't alone. And it was a scary situation because I didn't get my vision back, but as long as, everything else seems great and healthy, and there's less inflammation now, and other factors have not been considered, which I'm thankful for. But to have that another support system that you can relate to makes a big difference to me. How about you, Fern?
I think the best advice that I try to give, especially to my partner, Josh, because he's always saying to me, I don't know what to say, and I wish there was something exactly as you said, Kelly. And all I say to him is, you don't need to have the answers. You can't fix this. As much as you'd like to take this all away for me, you can't. And all I need from you right now is just to be here and just to listen to me, and just to, like I say, validate my feelings and say, yeah, of course, that sounds so hard. Don't try and make it better, because sometimes when we try and make things better, especially too quickly, actually it just feels like somebody's taking away from our experience and saying, oh, well, it's fine, oh, well, at least this and at least that. And that feels really painful. That isn't connecting, that's disconnecting. And it sort of is a miss between people. And so what I'd say is ask people, what do you need? What do you need from me right now? Can I just sit and listen to you? Talk to me, tell me about it. And also, like I say, the most important thing I think to remember is that no matter what happens, because we don't know what's going to happen, but whatever happens, you won't be going through it alone. And I think that is the thing that we can cling on to when there's nothing else left to cling on to, is you're not alone.
Yeah.
I love that, Fern, because one of my pet peeves is somebody giving me a solution to something that they can't give a solution to.
You wait here, I'll go get the sewing kit. We'll fix this.
Stop.
Everyone
the support is there. Yeah.
Fern, I am correct, right? Like, you wait around for the proper donation, right? Like that's a donor the cornea comes from. Is that correct? Because I know sometimes people think it's the old airplane glass, like it was for cataract, things like that, or it is a donation from a living.
It's a donation, disease. From a human being, and luckily for me, I was able to get one, because I had an emergency operation. They have some, just sort of out the back, just on standby, just in case for these sort of situations. But very often you do have to wait a long time to get somebody. So I would encourage anyone who has good corneas to consider one day donating them, because it is needed, and it really does make a huge difference to people.
Awesome.
Well, Fern, thank you so much for coming on the show, telling us about your journey, and we're here for you. We're your support system, and we want updates on your next visit.
Thank you so much. I'm sending you both big hugs. Thank you so much for being here and talking to me and making me feel happy.
Oh, good luck, hugs back. That was psychotherapist Fern Lulham telling us about her journey with a corneal transplant procedure. Very relatable, very touching.
Like I said, I feel, I've been in that position, try to wish people luck when they're going into a surgery, a procedure. You think so many things, and I think that was one of the biggest lessons, and I know my parents tried to impart this to me when I was a kid. There's nothing you can say or do except be there. And your reactions, yeah, but when I'm there, I got to talk, I got to say something, I got to do something, I got to make it better. And I remember being told, how can you make it better? I don't know. That's right. You follow their lead, and maybe just you being there, spending time talking to the person, distracting them, or just sitting there quiet listening. Maybe that's the help that you can give. There's no magic word. There's no magical thing you can do to kind of make the thing better. But definitely avoiding or bailing on someone. No, that's not the cool thing to do.
Stay, listen, and validate. That's what I say.
Excellent words. Excellent 3 to keep in mind. Folks, remember to check out our podcast from your platform of choice. Give us a rating and review if you don't mind while you're in there checking out the podcast. We really appreciate that. Also, remember, we have a YouTube page where you can get a lot of the content from the show and different extras such as the vanity cards. We've been posting them up there once a week. Check those out. But the segments from the show, full shows, are available from our YouTube page. Please subscribe, as well as subscribe to the podcast when you're on the go. What a great way to listen to the show and never miss a moment of it. And you can listen, of course, at your leisure to the Kelly and Company podcast.
Vitamin D deficiency is a real risk in this country this time of year. Even though our bodies are equipped to make it, most of us do not get outside for long enough to do so. Nutritionist Julia Caranchas is here with us, helping on getting more vitamin D into our diets. Hi. How's it going?
Hi. Good. How are you guys?
Pretty
Excellent.
Good.
It's a good Monday.
So can you explain the top reasons why vitamin D is so important to us?
And funny enough, I took my vitamin D this morning.
Oh, yay. Oh, fantastic.
Just give you a reminder.
I have not, but I will.
I have been terrible lately with it, so I will warn you. My contribution today is oh man, I have not been really great with the vitamins. I've been really, and at our worst time of the year, as you'll discuss with us.
Yeah, it is a high risk time of year to fall short on our vitamin D intake. It is a really important vitamin. It does, I would arguably say, a lot more than some of our other vitamins, although all of our vitamins are very important and have a very significant role in our body. But vitamin D is very important for bone health. It's very good for the immune system. It's also very good for mood. And so it does a lot of things and a lot of different things. And it's also not as abundant in food, because our bodies are designed to make it, and they're designed to make it from sunlight. And so that is why going deficient in it can wreak havoc, a little bit of chaos on the body, because it's a high likelihood that you could be deficient, because our bodies are supposed to make it from the sunlight. And it's, we live in this really cold climate where if you are outside, you're mostly covered, which we've mentioned before on the show, which is why in the summer, it's not as big of a deal because we've got bare arms. Our faces are showing, our legs sometimes are showing. In the winter, practically none of our skin is showing, and we're certainly not outside long enough to our body for our bodies to really absorb, like our skin to absorb enough sunlight to make that vitamin D. So it's important, good for the bones, good for the immune system, and good for our mood, which is important to note.
Julie, is there any way in the wintertime particularly that one could say, geez, I'm lacking in my vitamin D because maybe you get colder because of those bones that feel the cold more, or is that kind of just a reach?
That might be a reach, but if you're sick, that's a really good time, an indicator to increase vitamin D intake. Also, you can ask your doctor if you're getting blood work done to stick that on the panel. That is something that can be checked. So you can definitely be more mindful of those levels with a doctor, because it's not that hard to test for. They can do it in typical blood work panel. So if you're sick, I would encourage you Also, if you notice your mood is starting to dip a little bit, that is a little uncommon for you. That might be a sign that you might need some vitamin D, especially in the winter, right? We know
Yes.
that, seasonal affect disorder. So potentially a dip in your mood that's a little out of character for you, or you're getting sick. Those are things that could indicate that some vitamin D might be very helpful.
When did we start taking it more serious? Because we noticed mood. Mood, I think, probably came after the sick thing, right? We'd find, oh, I'm always sick.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you're recycling air, and you better be taking your vitamins, which we used to always put off to, need your vitamin C.
Yeah. So that's a great question. I finished my nutrition degree in 2006. And I would say at that time, we knew it was good, but it certainly wasn't as talked about as it is now. And I know just from dealing with sick family members, I think in the last, 10 years, we're really seeing an uptake of doctors prescribing it more and more and more. And I could be slightly off on those numbers. I'm just speaking from personal experience, but we've also noticed, a larger selection of vitamin D supplements available, not just for small infant babies, but for all ages, lots of different supplements in terms of the form that they come in. And so that's a good indicator that I hate the word trend because it is, really important for our health, but that we're catching up to what the science is showing us.
Okay, so that's the best way to look at it, because that's exactly the way I felt, that it became hot button to start, especially as we talk about mood, especially we talk about this part of the world and how little light we're getting. It almost just suddenly became this, and you want it to be obviously more than that for the reason that we're doing it, scaring people in certain ways, but it is something to take so serious. But yeah, I know trend kind of almost takes away and puts it almost a negative or lessens the value of what we're taught, because it's a very serious thing, because you don't want to panic people. But unfortunately, these things are trends with us. We hear, take this, or hey, you better use that, you better get your turmeric up, or whatever, and it becomes the buzz.
It becomes the buzz, especially with social media and people wanting to make money, right? I mean, you have on social media, you have all these brand partnerships, and what's the new thing that somebody can give you a promo code for, or sell, or use to boost their following content. And so I do think it has a bit of a negative connotation, but there's a lot of books written in terms of bone health and the importance of vitamin D, amongst other things, of course, with calcium. So calcium we know is important, but then it needs all these other things, and vitamin D is a star player in that. So we see that in the research. And then there's books written on mood, and we see vitamin D incorporated into those discussions. And so also, we're able to share information a little easier now. So that also might be a factor in how, making it more trendy, is that it's easier to share the information, but it nonetheless doesn't decrease the actual importance of this vitamin, or any vitamin.
How do we get it through food exactly?
Right. Great question. I mean, it is best to always eat everything that you need, but it is a bit of a challenge. And with vitamin D, it can be even more challenging. So vitamin D is found in fatty fish, sardines. Salmon is included, some tuna, trout is included in that list, mackerel if you eat it. It's also in some of our organ meats, which are not really abundant in a lot of people's North American diet. So that's potentially where something could be lacking. It's in egg yolk. So if you are not a vegan and you eat fish and egg yolk, you would get some. You can also get it with mushrooms, like wild grown mushrooms. They will absorb the sunlight, and they will have vitamin D in it. Nice. And oftentimes, really interesting. And a lot of vegan vitamin D supplements have either moss or mushroom as their source. So you could just eat mushrooms. And then there's also, because we know it's important, you do see a lot of companies, like food companies, like cereals, for example, that will fortify the cereal. So you can find it in cereals that are, non-meat, non-animal source sources there. We often see it fortified with some of our dairy products in milk, for example, but cereal, if you don't drink milk, you could use an almond milk. And so we do see the fortification with also the nut milk. So that would be a way to consume it, through nutrition. So fatty fish, mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of exposure when you think mushrooms, that whole cap thing. The surface picks it up, right? From the sun. I would imagine. Okay, supplements. What kinds are most and least helpful when it comes to vitamin D?
Yeah.
Vitamin D. Okay, so vitamin D is, you want a D3 supplement, which is the easiest to find. Most supplements are D3. It is harder to find non-D3 than D3. So that's usually an easy one. So you want to look for vitamin D3. This is the one that's active in your body. And with my suggestion here, it's really just, how are you going to take it every day? I personally take it as a spray. I think it's yummy. I remember to do it. I take a couple of other supplements and then I finish off with the spray and I like it. You can also get it as a tiny little gel capsule, like a little tiny ball that's really small, easy to swallow. And then you can also get it as a drop. The drops I personally find a little harder to keep track of your dosage. Sometimes they kind of come out fast depending on the bottle. So that one I find tricky, but that's a personal bias. I think you can get it as a tablet or a little soft gel, and those are probably the easiest thing to do. And it's really, how do you like to take it? Because if you don't like the taste or...
Right.
I mean, technically, yes, you can. And this is maybe where you might want to get your blood work done. Because if you're really deficient, your doctor actually might recommend that you take a very large amount for a specific period of time just to get your levels up. And then you wouldn't need that large amount going forward. And that's where consulting your doctor might be really beneficial. Because, technically you could overdo anything. So I wouldn't ever say vitamins, even though they're natural, are a total free for all. I would never say that. They're dosed accordingly. That's why we have Health Canada has the guidelines of what we're allowed to have in these natural supplements. And if you are going to start self-medicating, so taking more than what the bottle has recommended, I would definitely consult a healthcare practitioner before doing so.
I know we're running out of time, but I wanted to know, does sun exposure really make a difference? Because that's what we've been always told. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. It does. And oftentimes you might hear practitioners, like healthcare practitioners or doctors, recommend vitamin D only in the winter and less in the summer, because we are outside more in the summer. And so you're at a decreased risk there. Like you're getting the sunlight. And so, it really does. It really does make a difference.
Awesome. Thanks, Julia.
Thank you so much, Julia.
Yeah, of course.
Always learning something new with Julia.
Oh, yeah.
That was our nutritionist, Julia Granges, telling us why vitamin D is so important. So this is your reminder. Take your vitamin D right now.
I like her different methods too. The spray thing, I'd never heard of that. I just do
Me
pill.
neither.
And I know
I feel like
a lot of time people
easier.
take a lot. I think so. And the drops sounded kind of interesting. But again, that would be my concern, that I'd especially, when I ask that question, because I kind of, I know it's a fair amount. So I've never really worried, I'll take 2 of these, or if I took 3 of these. My problem, of course, is consistency and just doing it every day with all my vitamins. I'm not good at that.
Yeah. But do you lie to your doctor and say that you do take your vitamin D on time? Because every time
I don't say I take it on time. I just say I take it. And they, of course, say good, because they know you probably don't do it every day. You probably don't do it with food. You probably don't take these ones. But then they say out loud, "Oh, very good."
Yeah. I'm like, here and there I take
Hit and miss. A few times a month, some of them get in. Maybe I start on it and I take 4 of them, and then later come back for the next 7, or next week for the next 7 of them. I want to welcome in Michael Babcock, who joins us. Michael, good day to you.
I take my vitamins in the gummy form. Good day to you guys.
Oh,
I had a
smart.
feeling you would. I used to think that with Flintstones because I wanted my parents to give me always multiple Flintstones. No, one a day, except for when we were at the bottom of the bottle and there was a couple of them broke. But I have considered what the gummies would be like, but I'm too afraid I'd do that. I'm too afraid they taste too good and I'd overdo.
And you just
do
keep
you
going.
take? Well, that's the thing, Michael. Do you take all your vitamins in the gummy form?
Okay, so let's be fully transparent. The only vitamin I take is called vitamin melatonin, and so that's I don't think it's an actual vitamin, but definitely
It counts.
I really
It says
appreciate
it.
that.
Yeah, it's written as vitamin. It counts. I think so.
Okay,
It's
I
class.
like it.
There's a bunch of things in it, right? Just even though, it counts. Okay.
All I care about is as long as I get 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep and consistent sleep. That's what melatonin helps me with, is being able to stay asleep through the whole night.
Wow. Yeah, because do you actually get tired, Michael, when you don't sleep as much? Because you always have such great energy, but I've got to imagine there's those points in the day where you crash.
Do I actually get tired? It's funny. So I recently started a new job, and it's full-time employment versus part-time. And my wife's comment the other day was, "This means you can't take your afternoon nap when you get tired now because you'll be working."
Well, I can fall asleep on the job. I'll just catch up later. Guys, I got an item just before we get into Michael's segment here. An Australian couple has come forward to talk about how they were forced to sit for nearly 4 hours next to the body of a stranger who unfortunately passed away during the 15-hour flight they were on. Mitchell Rain and Jennifer Colley were on a Qatari Airlines flight when the woman had a medical emergency, and unfortunately the flight crew were unable to revive her and she passed away on the plane. They tried to reel her up towards the business class, but they couldn't get her through the aisle. Mitchell said to Current Affairs TV that it was heartbreaking to watch the lady's ordeal happen, of course. Then they actually placed the lady in the chair that Mitchell had been in. Upon landing, officials asked the couple to stay in their seats so they could remove the corpse first, rather than just let the couple get off the plane as soon as possible after spending hours next to the corpse. They couldn't believe that they were asked to stay. It wasn't nice, Ring told the media outlet in a statement. Qatari Airlines said they're going to reach out to the two flyers. Reach out for what? You can't compensate. Could you not allow these people to gracefully, politely, of course, respectfully go around the body, climb, step over, or at least ask them? Not, folks, you just stay there. We'll handle the business. I understand, obviously, you don't want to seem indignant to the person who passed away. I understand that. But this... You think about what this means, sitting next to the person, and I don't want to hear someone say, well, they had to sit next to the person for hours, so how much more harm could it do to their mental state or their emotional state? I don't want to know. No one should have to bear more, and that's not up to me to say. Go ahead, Nis.
It's scary, and I'm sorry, there's no other seats on that plane that they could move to, and instead, forcing them to sit there for 4 hours beside the body. Like, it's unfortunate. It's a scary situation, and the fact that they had to get the body out before the passengers can leave is ridiculous to me. That's just adding more stress, more trauma. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Michael.
So I'm flying to CSUN on Monday, and I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like, how would I handle this if I was in that situation? And I'll tell you exactly how I'd handle it. I would say, oh, we're coming in for landing. Sweet. I'm going to be able to get off this plane and move on with my day. And I'm still going to be, of course, upset, but I'm going to have that relief of being able to get off of the plane and to do what I need to do off that plane, and then to be told when I get there, oh, we're sorry, you need to sit here for a little longer. I think that's where it's upsetting to me, because you probably were looking forward to getting off of that. And this goes into the let's put in 100% of this. Let's book 100% of the seats and make these flights as full as we can. And then we have no wiggle room to be able to manipulate when things happen. Because when you're, 30,000 feet in the air on a 10-hour flight, emergencies can happen. You would think they would account for these.
Yeah.
Well, and you would have thought if you were trying to move the corpse up to first class, maybe the two people in question, maybe you could have let them go sit up there. I understand the person across the aisle, the person in front and back, you're still looking, but at least they're able, when the plane lands, to remove themselves. And you're asking someone else to watch, and it's upsetting enough because you see the poor person being manipulated, moved, and that in itself is traumatic watching. You feel horrible enough over what's happened. Go ahead, Niz.
No, the fact that they were like, oh, we're going to contact these 2 passengers after the flight. What are you going to say to them? What are you going to do to them?
Want some flight vouchers?
How are you going to redeem yourself? That's... Yeah. Exactly.
It's going to be that. There's nothing you can do. And if someone needs extra supports, people to talk to, like you could avoid to an extent, and this should be something you would think would definitely be covered. People are on these long flights. Unfortunate things like this are going to happen. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, if you would, please, at Kelly & Co. AMI. That's on Instagram and Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. Nizreen would love to communicate with you out there, and always look for our content. Please do so. With Amazon unleashing Alexa Plus with AI capabilities and smart homes increasingly becoming the normal way of life, Michael Babcock is here with his smart home updates and explanations accompany that. So, Michael, what in the home is smart now? Outside of yourself, of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, aside from my wife, too, because, got to give her a little bit of credit.
Oh,
so my home
she's
is
listening in.
Oh, she probably will be listening to the podcast. By the way, after what, 5 years now, she's finally listening to the Kelly & Co. podcast, so really appreciate it.
Gosh, thank you. Yes, thank you kindly.
Only took her long enough.
She's got a lot to catch up on. We don't mind. Take a few months to do that.
yeah, and keep up with the current content too, because that's
same time.
To do. So my home is not nearly as smart as Mark's home is, because Mark has a smart home. He has smart showers, I think I remember.
Mark,
I don't know about that. So the most recent addition to our smart home is my LG washer and dryer. And I'm going to rattle off some model numbers here. I'm sure if you want those model numbers, you can probably reach out on social and we can help get you those information. But the dryer that I have is the D like dog, L like Lima, E like Echo, X like X-ray, because that's super easy to remember. 4000 B like Bravo. And this is a electric gas dryer that has a fully inaccessible touch panel on the front face of it. Don't worry, we'll come back to that. And then it has 2 physical buttons and a knob on it. The physical button on the left, it's round. You press that to turn the dryer on, and then you press the button on the right of the knob to actually start the cycle for drying your clothes. There is a knob that it infinitely twists, so you can twist it as much as you want or until you annoy the family members because it's clicking. And you can use the touch panel if you have some site to be able to interact with it. This is connected to my smartphone. The washer that I'll mention here in a second is exactly the same when it comes to the 2 physical push buttons and the single rotary knob that you can twist on the front. The washer is WM4000, H as in hotel, B as in Bravo. Both of these have a button that is on the touch panel called Remote Start. And in order to use this washer or dryer with the fully accessible application, so that's how you get around the inaccessible touch panel on the front, you do have to touch and hold the Remote Start button. I did get some assistance with getting these connected to the Wi-Fi network, and I was able to get them running and used it just fine. But pressing that remote start button was a little problematic. So we used a bump dot and put it to the left of the remote start button for me. And now whenever I want to start a load, I simply find that bump dot, and yeah, it beeps because my finger trails over the touch panel. But I'm not worried about it, because once I find that dot, I slide my finger to the right, and then I feel the button, and I don't feel it. I put my finger where it needs to be. I touch, I wait for the beep, and then the app displays that remote start has been enabled. I can then pick the cycle that I want to use, and it allows me to run that independently. One cool thing about it, and Kelly, do you or Nazarene ever read the manuals of your appliances?
Nope.
I do sometimes.
I put it in a drawer.
Yeah, I do a lot of demo stuff when I go look for things online now, because it's the only way. But yes, I come from that world where you're supposed to.
Yeah,
I watch a YouTube video of it.
That's what I do if I can. That's what I really do. Demo videos. Yep.
So the manual is still taped to the top of our washer and the top of our dryer. These are front loading units, and no one has opened it. But in the app, you can accessibly read the manual without having to scan it.
Oh, nice.
It's fully accessible. And I think this was the first manual that I actually sat down and scrolled through and learned about. Like, you're supposed to wash the dryer out after 10 cycles. I haven't done that yet, just so you know. But you're supposed to, and that's how you maintain it. And so that's our newest thing. I'll go over a couple more things here real quick, and then pause for a minute if you guys have questions about these. We have the Level Lock, which is a smart lock that is great for renters because you don't change the lock at all. So the lock is still the same, so your landlord can still use their key if there's an emergency or they need to get into the unit. Your internal lock stays the same. You're just changing the internal bolt of the deadbolt that is on the door. We did have to chisel out a little bit of our door frame. Don't tell our landlord. But we had to chisel it out a little bit so the bolt would fit in, because it is a circle bolt instead of an oval bolt, which most of them are. But there's directions to be able to get that up and running, and then it works automatically. It will auto lock, and it is available in the Home app, which means that if we have it set up properly, when the last person leaves, the house should automatically lock, and that is AI and technology to its benefit. And the last thing that I'll mention, we have a couple of smart bulbs that I have mixed feelings about. I want to get back into the Hue ecosystem, which I probably will in the next couple of months. But the HomePod is the brains of our house, and shortcuts give the brain capabilities. So you can, because Apple's Siri on its own is not necessarily the smartest, but using shortcuts can expend some of that knowledge and abilities. And Alexa does work with a lot of these things, and I'm super interested to see what the new AI Alexa Plus is going to be like for us moving forward.
Will that change the availability out of the box, making things even more? Or do you consider that most things now, when you get them, that Alexa would be, a lady would be already able to find and latch on?
So I don't think it's going to alter the interaction with other devices. What I do think it's going to do is naturally let you set up some language to communicate with it. So maybe you'll be able to say something like, hey, can you lock the door at 8 p.m. tonight, instead of having to go in and set up a routine and all this type of stuff. I think we're almost at, from what I've read and heard, we're almost at what it is we all want from a smart assistant. A little bit of smarts and a lot of bit of assisting.
Right.
I love that. And how do you guys feel about, everything having apps? Because at first I thought it was annoying because it took up so much storage on my phone, but now I just can't do without having an app for everything. It's so accessible.
And they don't really obviously take up that much, especially with our phones getting faster and faster. But I like it because of the accessibility, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to program details. I wouldn't even, you also learn things so much more thorough. Michael, once you set that up, like you were talking with the bump dot and that stuff, now 100% you can do everything washing and drying using the app and the physical buttons.
Yeah, using the physical buttons, the app, and the washer and dryer are fully accessible to me now. I can. It's really interesting when you're going through setup. It's like, would you like to download this cycle to your washer? I'm like, would I like to do what? What does that mean? But they have it. So I think there's like 31 different cycles you can run. So for example, when we were washing towels the other day, there's a towel cycle that you can run on the washer, and I can independently now go through and select those instead of guessing and trying to remember which one is this, and
or what should be washed on what, right? You almost just have the name, so you know, this is better for linens, this is better for the towels, and specific.
Yeah, and you know you're going to get what you expect it to be. So my wife made some handmade their loop blankets. So she loops the yarn on itself, and those have to be washed on delicate settings because otherwise it's going to tear it apart. And in the past, I used to have to use Ira or Be My Eyes or grab one of the boys or ask my wife, hey, can you switch this to delicate? I washed the blanket that she made me for Christmas yesterday simply by opening the app, hitting the button, and then all of a sudden it was washed. It was washing, and I was able to do that with the dryer as well. And to go back to Nesreen's question about all the apps, I'm finding more fitting into the Home app, which makes that more accessible.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, Michael, excellent. We better turn you loose. Your wife's got a lot of shows to catch up on. Encourage. Have a safe trip and enjoy yourself out there in California. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
You guys have a good one.
Michael Babcock joining us right here on Kelly & Company. Email us at kellyco@ami.ca and call us at 1-866-509-4545. On our next show, we highlight the documentary series Through My Eyes, the documentary with a low vision artist, about a low vision artist whose daughter actually created it. We'll get into that on tomorrow's show. We're waving at you.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly & Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.